ready to go? Very good. Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is Steve Lionel, Vice Chair of the City of Nashua Zoning Board of Adjustment, and this is the May 28th, 2024 Zoning Board meeting. I am filling in for Rob Shaw, Chair, who cannot be with us tonight. The Chair is in control of the meeting. To the extent practicable and advisable, the Board will follow the procedures as identified in its bylaws. The applicant will present their case for 15 minutes, followed by questions by the Board. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor or with questions or opposition will be asked to speak for up to 5 minutes each. If there are questions or opposition, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present a response. Finally, one and only one person with questions or an opposition will be permitted to speak again before the Board deliberates and determines an outcome. We will be keeping track of the time here, and I will let you know when your time is expiring. Tonight, we will be hearing requests for deviation from the Nashua Zoning Code in the form of applications for special exceptions and variances. A special exception is a request that seeks permission to do something that the zoning ordinance permits only under special circumstances. To grant a special exception, 5 points of law are required to be met. These are outlined in the application and will be summarized in Board motions. A variance is a request that seeks permission to do something that ordinance does not permit. Variances also have 5 points of law to be met, different from those for special exceptions. Per the City of Nashua bylaws and State of New Hampshire revised statutes, a minimum of 3 or more affirmative votes are required to approve any motion. The Board will hear all scheduled cases if a quorum of 3 voting Board members is present at this meeting, and there are at least 3 of us tonight. Any citizen has the right to contest the decision that this Board makes. Should we make a decision that you believe is in error, you have the right to request a rehearing. A written rehearing request must be received by the City of Nashua Planning Department within 30 calendar days from the date of decision. Should this Board not grant a rehearing request, you can file an appeal directly to the New Hampshire Superior Court. Please contact Mr. Falk of the Planning Department for more information. For this meeting, we have the following full Board members in attendance. We have myself, Steve Lionel, again, I'm the Vice Chair. We have Mr. J.P. Boucher, who serves as our clerk, and we have Mr. Josh Neely. Shortly, we are planning to be joined by an alternate member, Stathia Boris. In addition to Board members, we have with us Mr. Carter Falk, Deputy Planning Manager. I will now take roll call attendance. Mr. Neely.
Present.
Mr. Boucher.
Present.
And I, Mr. Lionel, am present. So alternates will not be an issue today because unless too many of us recuse. Mr. Falk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Two changes. Stellos Family Investment Properties at 115 Northeastern Boulevard will not be heard tonight. That has been tabled or postponed to the June 25th Zoning Board meeting. Also, the last case on the agenda at Roby Park for the disc golf special exception has also been postponed to a date certain of June 25th as well. It will not be heard tonight.
Thank you. So if there's anybody who had come here for those cases, feel free to leave, or you may stay and enjoy your company. I will now read the first case into the record. The owner is the Boisvert Family Revocable Trust, Danny and Michelle Boisvert, 7 Century Road. Sheet G, Lot 386, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Item 3, to allow an accessory or in-law dwelling unit in the lower level of an existing house. This is in the R18 Zone, Ward 2. Is there somebody here to present the case? Please step up to the lectern. Feel free to adjust the microphone. You can even pull it out from the stand if you wish, and walk us through what you'd like to do.
So there's a person in the audience if they can't hear us.
You can't hear, well,
You've got a soft voice.
I don't have a soft voice, but they're supposed to be
Recording. Well, you can pull your seats up Closer if you'd like.
Well, I will speak louder, but I guess all of us are going to have to speak louder. Supposedly, there are speakers and microphone, we have microphones, but you really can't.
I get to put my hearing aids all the way up, but.
Yeah.
You can pull your seats up
Yeah,
closer to the
if-
stage if you like. Come on
Yeah,
up.
If anybody
All
has a
right.
problem hearing, yeah, okay.
You're welcome to sit up here or sit at that table as well.
Okay.
Okay, hi. So,
Please
yeah.
give your name and address for the record.
Dan and Michelle Bover, 7 Century Road. And so we own a split-level home. So with a split-level home, you've got the 2 doors in the front. So one door, you walk up the stairs, and that's where we'd like to keep our primary residence. The bottom door, you walk downstairs, and that's where we're proposing to have a studio apartment with a bathroom down there. We would have a door. So we do have a list of everything that needs to be done, and we do believe that we can meet all that. We had a contractor come and look. So we need minimal things. We need a door separating those indoor stairs. We can meet that. The window that we have now downstairs, I have a picture of the home. I don't know if that helps you guys to visualize it, or
I believe there is a picture in the
you
application.
have an old picture, I think. But yeah, so the downstairs window, we just need to get a slider on that instead, so it meets egress.
Well, not-
So really, the biggest things, there's no construction to the outside of the house other than just replacing a window. Everything else would be inside. We already have a bathroom down there, so we just need to add a stand-up shower. So it's very minimal what we need to do in a kitchenette type of a deal. We do have parking for 6. We have a 2-car garage plus another 4 cars in the driveway. We don't believe that it's going to bother the neighborhood in any way. We would just be having 1 to 2 people stay in that apartment, 1 to 2, families, just 1 to 2 people. So again, we've gone through all the criteria, and we do believe that we can meet it to have an ADU.
Okay, and I see that you have agreed to the 10 conditions
Yes.
for that.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe they're very easy to meet for us.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board? I see Ms. Boras has joined us.
My apologies.
Any questions from the board? No? Okay, you may have a seat if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, is there anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to this application? Again, seeing none, okay, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher, your comments?
I'm going to support the application as stated by the applicant. The affidavit, accessory dwelling use affidavit, has been fulfilled. Again, a split-level home kind of lends itself anyways to this accessory dwelling use, accessory use. And the home, there are many splits that have this extra door next to the garage. Sometimes they're on the side, sometimes they're on the front. So I'm not concerned about, that extra door there. I think that's always been there. That's not something that was added for this feature. So with that, I'm going to support the application.
Thank you. Mr. Neely?
I am also in support of the application for the reasons as spoken by Mr. Boucher.
Okay. Ms. Boras, did you hear enough that you would like to offer an opinion?
Well, I actually reviewed my file, and I am in support of the application.
Okay. And I am also in support.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boucher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special exception for the Boisvert Family Revocable Trust, Danny and Michelle Boisvert, applicants to 7th Century Road, Sheet G, Lot 386, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code, Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory in-law dwelling unit in the lower level of the existing house in the R18 Zone, Ward 2. We find it is listed in the table of uses. We find it will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. We find that it will not overload public water, drainage, or sewer, or other municipal systems. We find that the special regulations have been fulfilled, and we find that it will not impair the integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of the residents. So with that, I make a motion to approve the special exception.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 4 to nothing. Again, you're Application has been approved. Please remember, there is that 30-day window of appeal, but you are free to proceed with your plans. Okay. Moving on, case number 2. Owner is Harbor Homes Incorporated, address 75 to 77, excuse me, Northeastern Boulevard. Am I loud enough for you, for people now? You can all hear me? Okay, very good. I moved the microphone closer. That may help as well. 7577 Northeastern Boulevard, sheet 140, lot 33, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-119B to allow expansion of office space in an existing building, which was initially contemplated to house a permitted sanitarium treatment facility, which was not established, and allow space at 77 Northeastern Boulevard to be used as office space, whether or not associated with uses listed in the industrial and manufacturing category. This is in the PI, Park Industrial Zone, Ward 6. Good evening. Please give your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Brad Westgate. I'm a lawyer with Weiner Bennett, 402 Amherst Street here in Nashua, representing Harbor Homes, Inc. I'm joined tonight by two people from Harbor Homes, Henry Oak, who's their CEO, and Vanessa Talasazan. I'll spell for the record the two last names, OCH for Henry and TALASAZAN for Vanessa. And also tonight joining us, three people from SK&H LLC, which you know better as Gate City Casino, and that's Brian Smith, no need to spell his last name, Andrew Gentile, Gentile, and Giovanna, Giovanna, Bonilla, Bonilla. So we appreciate the time tonight to present our case, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to hand out the updated site plan that pertains to this property. I think all of you got it by email in advance of tonight's meeting, and I don't need to refer to it too much, but just for the record, I thought it would be sensible to have it in front of everybody.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
So just to give a little background on the property, Mr. Chair, Harbor Homes owns this property. It's 5.6 acres, and it's the buildings at 75 and 77 Northeastern Boulevard. You're probably familiar with them. They've owned the property for about 7 years now. It contains a combination of office, commercial, industrial uses, such as warehouse storage, distribution, displays, some light industry, product development, production, showroom, healthcare use, which is, I'll get to in a moment, and office uses, sort of plain vanilla office uses as well. The total complex is about 88,492 square feet of space in the PI zone. The 75 Northeastern Boulevard portion of the property, that's the building on the right, the portion of the building on the right, houses St. Joe's Rehabilitation, some storage records and the like. They occupy that whole building. It's one story, a bit over 31,000 square feet. So the remainder of the building, 77 Northeastern Boulevard, the portion on the left, is a two-story structure, contains just over 57,000 square feet. You add up rentable space, common area, and the like. And it's currently occupied by Harbor Homes and its affiliates, essentially for office space, some storage, and then three unrelated tenants, which I just briefly note in a moment, with a fourth tenant coming in to take over some small amount of office space. It's taking over one of Harbor Homes affiliates' operation. One of the current tenants is SKEESKAY NH LLC, which is Gate City Casino, and I'll use the term Gate City Casino throughout instead of the SK word. It's a little easier to say. Right now, they have 8,848 square feet of space, but they fully subleased it to National Nutrition LLC. So National Nutrition LLC uses this 8,848 square feet of space that was rented to Gate City Casino. The reason for that pertained to Gate City Casino's taking over the operation of the old Boston Billiards facility, and that it was a business arrangement that sort of enabled Nashua Nutrition to need some new space, so Gate City Casino leased that space here at 77 Northeastern Boulevard. Two of the other tenants are in the electrical components, assembly, engineering business involving, in fact, some small laser type product lines. This board in 2016 granted a variance to Harbor Homes to permit an office building without a drive-through facility, which is a permitted use by conditional use permit in the zone, but the requirement was that any office building without drive-through have 75% of its space allocated to industrial manufacturing category uses. So we came before this board because right off the bat, with St. Joseph Hospital occupying about 33% of the entire complex, we weren't at 75% industrial and manufacturing utilization to begin with. So the board granted that variance in 2016, enabling us to have more office space, if you will, unrelated to industrial and manufacturing category. But what we presented that night involved a related use that we were hoping to undertake, a treatment facility that would be a permitted use without the need for use variance, occupying about 13,000 to a bit over 24,000 square feet of space. The designs of the treatment facility hadn't been facilitated. It would be akin to Harbor Homes' Keystone Hall operation at 615 Amherst Street, which is ongoing. It has been for a number of years. Reasons beyond Harbor Homes' control, they were unable to make that treatment facility a reality. So what's happened over the years is Harbor Homes and its affiliates, of course, have used this for office space. But when we were granted that variance, I always felt that since we presented the case to the board that between 13,000 and 24,000 plus square feet would be used for this treatment facility, we never really got a variance, if you will, or sort of free rein to have the entire building be office space, because we didn't present it in that fashion that night. So to me, the office space utilization did have some limitations because of the way we presented that case. So I discussed that with Mr. Falk, because now Gate City Casino is desirous of leasing about 7,500 square feet of space, totally different than the 8,800 square feet they sublease to National Nutrition, to use for effectively back office, some records, and small amounts of equipment storage as well. But I didn't want that to take us over the top, if you will, for what we think is the allowable office use. So I talked to Mr. Falk about it. We read through the land use code and came to the conclusion that a special exception to expand a non-conforming use was the route to take. So effectively, we've filed the application for two reasons. One is to allow the lease to Gate City Casino of approximately 7,500 square feet for essentially their back office use and perhaps some storage use as well. But to avoid having to come back here again someday, to essentially seek that the 75% allocation industrial manufacturing requirement be lifted, and that the building can be utilized for office space irrespective of whether there's a tie to an industrial manufacturing use or not. The reason for that is that Harbor Homes continuously gets inquiries from people who want to rent small to mid-sized square footage for office space. And when you look at the building and think of Northeastern Boulevard and the area, you see it's such a mix of uses already, with a fair amount of office space on both sides of the street. You look at this building and you kind of think of it as an office building, not really a traditional manufacturing and industrial building. And frankly, that's what part of the reasons people are attracted to the building, because it appears to be office space use. It's got a great amount of parking as well, so it's sort of a nice use to be made. Gate City Casino's case, they're at 55 Northeastern Boulevard, so it's an ideal location for their office use. Relative to the site plan I handed out, so in 2016, The site plan was amended administratively to contemplate effectively the use and parking requirements that would be implemented back then, and that contemplated the treatment facility arrangement that I described. Mr. Falk asked and made a good suggestion that we should update the plan so that at least tonight I can demonstrate to you that from a parking perspective, given the mix of uses that are there, there's no issue in meeting the parking requirements, both the minimum and the maximum requirements. And we lay that out in the table under the label Building Use and Parking Table in the middle of the plan that I've submitted. Without going into all the detail of that, to make a sort of long story short, the property has about 215 parking spaces. If you take the entire complex, 75 and 77 Northeastern Boulevard, you see on the table that 111 spaces is the minimum required and 339 is the maximum required. So we fall essentially right in the middle of that. So what's proposed really to make this happen is one other step. We would likely need the administrative approval from the planning department of this new amended site plan. So that's another reason we prepared it. If we're fortunate enough to be successful with a special application, we'll then pursue that. In terms of actual work, there's no outside work contemplated in terms of the building changing. The only work really is inside for office fit-up, so there's no external changes to the building at all contemplated. Just take a moment, if I may, and then conclude, just to address the 5 criteria for a special exception under Section 190-134 of the Land Use Code. So we've tried to explain in detail the application and the property, both in our application in writing and tonight. As I mentioned, there's no work that's going to be done to the exterior of the building. It's not expanding or contracting, only the interior fit-up. We don't need any additional parking. There's more than ample parking spaces already available, and even if the whole complex was fully office use, there would be still sufficient parking and fall within the minimum and maximum requirements. When you take a look at the building, as I mentioned, the neighborhood, the surrounding uses, we think it's not out of character with the zoning district or the immediate neighborhood. Regarding the 5 criteria specifically, this request that is expanding a nonconforming use is listed as a special exception in that Section 190-119B of the Land Use Code allows the expansion of a nonconforming use, the approach we took after consultation with Mr. Falk. The nature of the uses won't generate traffic congestion concerns or pedestrian safety issues, given the amount of parking, the traffic flow in the property, the way it's been historically used for literally decades. The expansion, there's no expansion of the exterior, as I mentioned, and therefore the only interior fit-up that occurs is the office, and therefore we won't overload public water, drainage, or sewer system facilities. 4th criteria, special regulations, none are applicable to this type of special exception. And lastly, as noted, we don't believe that we would impair or be out of character with the district or the immediate neighborhood given this historical use, nor be detrimental to health, safety, and moral welfare of the residents. Just lastly, it's the first time I looked at this, because I was the one who presented it in 2016, it surprised me that general office use wasn't allowed in the park industrial zone, especially when you sort of note the types of uses that exist in the zone. It's a bit of a curious wrinkle in the land use code, but that wrinkle is why we came in 2016 and why I thought it was appropriate and necessary to come back tonight, so we can sort of solidify once and for all the flexibility of office use in this building. Happy to answer any questions, as are the folks who came with me. Appreciate your time, Mr. Chair.
I just have a question for Mr. Phillip. I know variances run with the land. I don't remember about special exceptions.
Well, as long as they get approval, if they get approval from the board, as long as that use is still being active, it will run with the land. It'll stay active. So.
Okay. But if they sold the property,
If they sold the property and a whole different use wanted to go in there,
Or that would be different.
we'd have to see what the new use is. I couldn't answer that at this point,
Right.
without knowing what it would be.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. All right, any questions from the board? Not seeing any? Okay, Attorney
Thank you,
Westgate, you
Mr.
may
Chair.
have a seat. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Not seeing anybody. Is there anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Again, not seeing any. All right, so I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Ms. Morris, your comments?
I'm in favor as it's presented. I think they did a very good job. I think the establishment is running perfectly. I think, I mean, I'm in support of it.
Okay,
As submitted.
thank you. Mr. Neely?
Yeah, I'm also in favor. I don't think it's feasible to think that a sanitarium, for lack of a better descriptor, is going to go in there. Harbor Homes does a great job in this community. Kudos for them for finding someone to fill this space. As we've heard from many folks over the past year and a half, it's sometimes tough to fill the space, so kudos for doing that. In addition, we've got, a growing local business who is right there. So I think it's a win-win to have Gate City going in there as well. Honestly, looking at the outside of the building, I honestly thought it was an office building to start out with. So I don't think it's going to change the character in any way. So quite frankly, I'm fully in favor of this.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher?
I'm also in support of the application. I believe that it is really a mixed bag of what's going on Northeastern Boulevard, from McDonald's all the way up to Main Dunstable. And I don't believe that approving this is going to take away from any potential manufacturing, light industrial uses, because there's still buildings that are available. So there isn't, to me, there isn't a detriment to approving this. So I think it's, again, I think it fits into that location. I think it's reasonable, so I'm going to support the application.
Thank you. And I'm also in support for the reasons my colleague stated. Somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Neely, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special exception for Harbor Homes Incorporated, the owner at 75-77 Northeastern Boulevard, sheet 140, lot 33, who are requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-119, subsection B, to allow an expansion of office space in existing building, which was initially contemplated to house a permitted sanitarium treatment facility, which was not established, and allow space at 77 Northeastern Boulevard to be used as office space, whether or not associated with the uses listed in the industrial and manufacturing category. This is located in the PI zone in Ward 6. The board finds that this is listed in the table of uses. This will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. This will not overload public water, drainage, or sewer or other municipal system. Special regulations are fulfilled, and this will not impair the integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to health and morals or welfare of the residents. The board did have discussion, found that this building already looks like an office building. There's going to be no construction to the outside of it. There is still other light industrial facilities available in this area, so this will not take away from any availability to perform those functions. And for those reasons, I make a motion to approve the special exception.
Thank you. And Mr. Boucher, thank you for your second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Again, it's 4-0. Your special exception is approved. Congratulations. And again, I'll remind you of the 30-day window of appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moving on to case number 3. Owner is the Durati and Hivizda, sorry if I mangled that, Investment Trust. Applicants are Kenneth Durati and Karen Hivizda. Address 4 Serenity Lane. Sheet B, lot 3193, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, to encroach 5 feet into the 40-foot required rear yard setback to add an 8-foot by 16-foot deck extension onto the existing attached rear yard deck. This is the R18 zone, Ward 9. Good evening. Please give your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Ken Durati, 4 Serenity Lane, and this is my wife, Karen Vista. Our request is, the back of our home has an existing deck that runs 16 feet along the house and 8 feet onto the backyard. We'd like to extend it 8 feet further into the backyard to give us a 16 by 16 deck. Regarding the 5 points, we do believe, we understand that the ordinance is construct a critical wetland. There is a brook, I forget the name of it, that eventually runs in the Saran Brook behind the house. There's also 2 man-made retention ponds to the left rear of the house that is enclosed within that definition of the critical wetlands. The footings for the new deck will intrude 5 feet maximum into that 40-foot setback. There will be no added pollution or runoff. The retention ponds hold runoff from Serenity Lane, in fact. We're going to put gravel under the deck, and the remaining backyard is lawn, so there'll be no runoff into the critical wetland area. We feel we would benefit by this variance because beyond giving us an expanded outdoor living area, it'll provide us an egress to the rear of the house from the main living area because we'll have stairs down to the left. We currently don't have that egress. The deck will not diminish the values of the surrounding properties. It's a residential neighborhood. In fact, most of them have expanded decks, so we'd be totally in character with the rest of the neighborhood. The proposed will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties. We have no immediate abutter to the left. There's a open easement with a paved walking path. That's beyond the left side of the house. Neighbors to our right can't even see our deck. And if they lean over their deck, they might be able to see the right corner of the new deck because of the way that house is angled. And there's no direct abutters to the rear of our lot. Special conditions. The angle of that definition of the critical wetland to include those 2 retention ponds is angled severely to the left rear of the house, and that's where we feel the footing for the support pole for the new deck intrudes by about 5 feet into that.
Intrudes in the setback. It's not actually into the
Yes,
wetland zone.
It would
Yes.
intrude into the 40-foot setback.
Yes. Okay.
And we feel that by not having an expanded deck, which many of the homes do, it potentially could impact the resale value of our home. So,
Okay.
And though it does intrude into that 40 feet, it doesn't even intrude into the retention pond area.
Right.
So it doesn't come close to the retention ponds, and the stream is way back.
it's probably 20 feet beyond those retention ponds here.
Yeah, way back.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Not seeing any? Okay. You may have a seat.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this application? We do have a letter of support from George and Joanne Passati of 10 Serenity Lane. So they are in favor. I don't think we have any other letters.
Just that one letter.
Just that one? Okay, yep. Is there anybody who wishes to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to this application? Not seeing any, so I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher, your comments?
I fully support the application. I think it's reasonable use. I think the size is reasonable, especially when you put a table out there and chairs and stuff. And again, what makes it easy for me to support the application again is, as noted, the location of the home, the property behind them. There's nobody behind them. There's really nothing, I think, that would cause me to have any doubt on supporting the application. So again, I think it's pretty straightforward for me. So I'm going to support the application as it is.
Thank you. Mr. Neely?
I'm also in favor of this application for the reasons as stated by Mr. Boucher.
Thank you. Ms. Boras?
I'm also in support of the application as stated by my colleagues.
And I am also in support. Who would like to make a motion? Mr. Neely?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for Durati and Hevizda Investment Trust owner Kenneth Durati and Karen Hevizda, applicants for Serenity Lane, Sheet B, Lot 3193, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3 to encroach 5 feet into the 40-foot required rear yard setback to add an 8-foot by 16-foot deck extension onto existing attached rear yard deck. This is located in the R18 zone, Ward 9. The variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, and the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board did have discussion about where the deck will be located near the 40-foot buffer zone, found that there would be no negative effect to the buffer zone. The house has no rear abutter, no abutter to the left-hand side, and the right-hand abutter has no straight view to where this deck would be. The applicant did state that they are concerned about the resale value of this house, and this will give them more opportunity to live outside and enjoy their current property. This is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. This will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. This is not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served. So for those reasons, I make a motion to approve the variance.
And Ms. Boras, thank you for your second. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? All right, it's 4-0. Your variance has been approved. Again, there's the 30-day window of appeal, and good luck to you.
Thank you. May I ask you what that 30-day window is?
It means that if anybody, any citizen in the city wishes to appeal the motion or appeal the approval, they can file a request for a rehearing. I think that's pretty unlikely in this case, but we always tell people this because it can happen, and it has happened in sometimes, especially when there's controversy regarding an issue. You know, so the applicant can appeal, or anybody else can appeal. So if somebody really had it, didn't like your extending your deck, they could say, well, wait a minute, I don't like that, and then what we would do is we would say there's no testimony done at an appeal, a rehearing request. We looked, did we follow the law? That's basically it. Or was there something that we should have known that we didn't know? So, these happen rarely, but they do happen. And we have to let you know that it's a possibility. But you are welcome to begin your project, but just be aware there's that little possibility of somebody asking for a rehearing. Doesn't mean that it would be their request would be granted, but it's a possibility. Okay? Good luck. Okay.
This would have been case 4, but that's been tabled.
Yeah, I was going to get that. Okay. Yeah, so case 4, which was 115 Northeastern Boulevard, has been tabled to June 25th, so we're not going to be hearing that one today. So next is case number 5. The owner is Dana George, LLC. Applicant is Roland Fong. Address 67 Groton Road, Sheet D, Lot 134, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-17B to exceed maximum number of principal structures allowed per lot, 1 permitted, 5 existing, which was approved by the ZBA on July 27th, 2021. 6 are proposed to detach an existing farmhouse from a 3-unit barn. This is in the R40 zone, Ward 5. Good evening. Please give your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Paul Chisholm, and I'm with Keach Nordstrom Associates. We are the engineers and surveyors of record for the project. I'm representing Dana George's LLC, who is the current condominium owner and developer of the property, and the applicant, Mr. Roland Fong, who is with me here tonight. Roland has basically got an agreement to buy the white farmhouse and is seeking this variance to separate it from the 3 barn units for a number of reasons. Obviously, at its core, that's not allowed by the current zoning ordinance, so we are here tonight to basically request that 6 standalone structures be allowed as opposed to the 5 that were previously permitted. Basically what Roland's looking to do is there's a small hallway connector that's about 8 feet wide now going from the barn to the back section of the white farmhouse. By taking that out, there's a couple advantages. Number one, it's more desirable to obviously Roland and his family in terms of separating out ownership and maintenance responsibilities that the HOA has currently kind of set up. Obviously, as those structures are tied together, they have kind of this unusual agreement in terms of maintenance for both the barn and the White House because, for example, they all share the same roof, okay? So structurally, in terms of the legal framework, it's going to be a little bit cleaner to separate them. Also, from a uniformity standpoint, there's patios, I guess, on the west side of the barns, which units, 1 for each of the units, so there's 3. That's the side that's closest to the White House. With the hallway connector in there, one of those is just a little bit smaller. It's, again, the width of that connector is smaller compared to the other 2, so allowing that will allow for really 3 uniform patio areas in there. And really, again, that will help separate out some of the HOA maintenance agreements between those units and help just create 3 units that are more uniform for the barn itself. So that's really the issue at its core. In terms of the 5 criteria, granting this variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The proposal is to detach the existing white farmhouse from the barn, thus creating an additional structure for a total of 6, where only 1 is allowed. The site was previously granted relief to allow 5 total structures. The house has been connected to the barn for decades through a narrow hallway, which is proposed to be removed. This minor change in appearance will not alter the existing character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. One other additional benefit of that is as the barn got into the fire protection design, it kind of actually looped in part of the White House to that, so this will help kind of make that system a little bit more simplified with the structures being detached. Because, again, part of the White House had to basically get some piping and some additional sprinkler brought into that just by virtue of the connection. The proposed use will observe the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The proposed disconnection of the white farmhouse from the barn will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, as it is a minor change to a developed property and residentially developed area. This variance has been granted in the past to allow 5 structures and would uphold the basic intent of the ordinance, which is to provide orderly residential development. The Groton Estates project has appropriately been built out in character with the area, and this proposal will not change the overall aesthetic or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. Substantial justice will be done by the property owner by granting the variance. The applicant is seeking to purchase the white farmhouse and make custom alterations to it which are acceptable to the HOA. The intent is to separate the single-family home from the barn units and thus keep all the single-family style housing separate from the 3-unit style barn units. The applicant believes this proposal conforms with the overall development scheme of the property. There is no benefit to the public or others by denying this variance because the change is so minor. The proposed use will not diminish the value of surrounding properties because the proposed minor change to separate the barn and the white farmhouse will not diminish the values of the surrounding property. It is a small change to a larger project which has been built out as a high-end residential development using good quality materials, good practices, and to create a unique and desirable development. And then special conditions exists such that literal enforcement of the ordinance result in an unnecessary hardship. The Groton Estates project is a unique development that is different than other developments in the area, since a large part of the project is centered around the barn units. Separating the 5 single-family units from the 3 barn units will provide a more desirable legal framework for the applicant and the HOA. The proposed modification is reasonable since it is minor. It will not affect the property or the surrounding area. With that being said, I'm happy to answer whatever questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Neely?
So it's been fun to watch this project as it's occurred, kind of live in that area, drive by it every day. So when you came before the board in 2021, how come you didn't ask for this at this point? Is this kind of like as the project went on, you kind of said, oh, by the way, this makes more sense? Is that why we're here tonight?
Yeah, this is really a little bit more buyer-driven in this case. So Dana was really, at the time, there wasn't a strong desire to do one or the other. What he realized in trying to market the property, that it's more desirable now to separate them. So that's why, I mean, again, this particular application is driven by the buyer himself, but I think Dana would probably like to see this fall through with anyway in case the deal falls through. But yeah, it was really kind of more, desirability, just not, trying to, I guess, put himself in a corner earlier on. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Not seeing any? Okay, you may have a seat.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Sir, if you wish to speak in favor? If you do, come up and to the microphone and give your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
As Paul had spoken, it was really driven by my desire to separate that small, narrow hallway area. The property has a lot of appeal to me, only because it was an 1800s farmhouse, and I wish to maintain that. But to have it as its own home, just like the other three that are abutting that. And that was the real drive of it. I do want to ultimately preserve the aesthetic appeal and the structure of the existing home. And that's what really is. I just wanted to separate the two, and that was desirable to me as a single-family home, not to be attached with an HOA and a condominium, to be able to have my own yard and do what I want. My goal was really doing this to have my mother move in with us, and really, she really liked the farmhouse and how it looked, and obviously we would renovate the inside. But that's really the overall intent of what I would like to do as a buyer.
Yeah, Mr. Fung, I didn't hear you give your address, your current address.
Yes, I live in 1C Pat's Way in Hollis, and I also own the home my mom lives in at 41 Nightingale Road in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any questions for the board for Mr. Fong? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, anybody else wishes to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Not seeing any? Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Ms. Boras, your comments?
I'm in support of the application.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Mr. Neely?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of the application. When you take a look at the property, it makes sense to remove that hallway. If anybody's driven by it, you can see it's down to, concrete foundation right now. It doesn't make sense to rebuild that and have that small hallway attached. They also testified to the fact that it would positively affect the fire suppression system by separating these two out. So it doesn't negatively affect any property values. It is actually definitely is a good positive to that area. So for those reasons, I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher?
I'm also in support of the application. Again, going over I was here when the original approval came through, and I don't recall that hallway being a crutch to the approvals that we had. Why there would be a specific reason why that had to be there, and the only way we would do it would be with that connection. So I don't remember that being part of the discussion as I recall. But again, without anything there that specifically spoke to that connection, I'm going to support the application.
Thanks. And I also remember the application, and I don't remember any discussion about the hallway, so I'm in support. Somebody care to make a motion? Oh, I'll do it. Excuse me. Make a motion on behalf of owner Dana George, LLC. Applicant is Roland Fong. The address is 67 Groton Road, Sheet D, Lot 134, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-17B to exceed maximum number of principal structures allowed per lot, 1 permitted, 5 existing, 6 proposed, to detach an existing farmhouse from the 3-unit barn. This variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property. When this plan was discussed previously at the ZBA, the barn was attached to the house with a short hallway, but there doesn't seem to be any really good point for that. And we've been given number of reasons why it's a good idea to detach these buildings and have the farmhouse be separate. There is no other benefit that can be sought other than the variance. We believe this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We have no testimony that it will adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. The board believes it's not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served. So I make a motion to approve the area variance. Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Congratulations, your variance is approved. Again, 30-day window of appeal is possible, and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving on to case number 6. The owner is James K. Stellos Revocable Trust. The applicant is Daniel Flores, SFC Engineering Partnership, Inc. Address is 2 and L for land, Oldfield Road. Sheet A, lots 270 and 322, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-17B to exceed maximum number of principal structures allowed per lot, 1 permitted, 4 single-family detached units proposed. This is in the RA Zone, Ward 7. Good evening. Please give your name and address for the record, and tell us what you'd like to do.
Great. My name is Dan Flores with SFC Engineering, address 183 Rockingham Road, Windham, New Hampshire. I'm here on behalf of the James K. Stellos Revocable Trust at P.O. Box 409, Nashua, New Hampshire. And we are here seeking a variance, as just stated, to allow more than 1 principal structure on a lot. You should all have a plan in front of you showing the property. This property exists today as number 2 Oldfield Road on the left-hand side of the plan. That's currently the Stellos family home. And then on the right side of that is L Oldfield Road, which is a vacant lot that has wetlands along the back side of it. And then up in front of that vacant lot is the Oldfield Road right-of-way. That's currently a paper street. Oldfield Road was accepted by the city up to the edge of pavement back in 1963, and then that portion has remained undeveloped. Basically, what we're looking to do is make best use of that vacant property. Number 2 Oldfield Road does have a single-family residence on it now. The idea is to combine the 2 lots into one, and that allows us to get 4 properties or 4 single-family homes with a 20-foot access drive suitable for fire access as well as a fire truck turnaround. We're able to do all this while maintaining the 40-foot wetland buffer. If we're successful tonight, we would then go on to the planning board for site plan approval. At this point, I can read through the 5 criteria. Number 1, granting of the required variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the variance will not be contrary to public interest as it implements the purpose of the urban residence zoning district by allowing development of single-family residences. The resulting development will be similar to existing development in the neighborhood. 2, the proposed use will observe the spirit of the ordinance because the spirit of the ordinance is met because the proposed use of single-family residences is permitted within the zone, and the development will meet all setbacks required in the zone. Number 3, substantial justice would be done to the property owner by granting the variance because the variance will allow the landowner to make best use of their property, which has sat vacant for decades. The property identified as Lot A322, which is L Oldfield Road, is an existing lot of record that is burdened by wetlands along the back portion, which hampers effective development of the lot, resulting in a portion of the Oldfield Road right-of-way remaining undeveloped in a paper street. This proposal allows development of this property while protecting wetlands and extinguishing the paper street. Number 4, the proposed use will not diminish the values of surrounding properties because property values are expected to increase due to the development of highly sought-after single-family homes. And number 5, special conditions exist such that literal enforcement of the ordinance results in unnecessary hardship because The special circumstances include the existing lot of record requiring access from the undeveloped paper street of Oldfield Road right-of-way, and the wetlands formed along the back of the lot due to development of Daniel Webster Highway. These site constraints place a financial burden on landowner development due to required Oldfield Road construction and limited development area remaining from the wetland buffer. Combining this lot with A270, which is 2 Oldfield Road, allows the undeveloped portion of the Oldfield Road right-of-way to be extinguished, with the resultant land area sufficient to allow development of 4 single-family homes on the 1 combined lot while preserving the wetland and meeting all required setbacks of the zoning district. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? No? Not seeing any? Okay, you may have a seat. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience with questions, concerns, or opposition? Okay, gentleman in the front, please come up to the lectern and give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Cliff Banner. My wife, Linda Banner, in the back. We reside at 459 South Main Street. We came into this meeting thinking that there would be a Stellos discussion. We were told that it would not be held tonight, perhaps a different Stellos discussion. The property that we have, we've been on for 35 years. Our lot backs up to Oldfield Road extension, and at that point, we have very little room between the Oldfield Road extension and the DW Highway, and effects from the Route 3 pass between exit 3 and exit 4. That is a runoff drain water collector. I don't know if it qualifies because I haven't done the research yet as a watershed. It probably does, because during heavy rains, both my property and my neighbor's property at 459 and a half South Main, the jetties, do receive substantial flooding and so on. It would, again, I'll have to do some research, but will probably increase flooding potential. In addition, there's a tremendous amount of noise that was created, particularly during the winter, with leaves off the trees. Substantial noise, particularly in the winter. It's reduced somewhat in the summer, but it's always present. And that's both from Daniel Webster Highway as well as the Route 3 turn between exit 3 and 4. As a potential butter to this property, we'd like to have a lot more detail on how that Oldfield Road extension will be drawn and how it will be used, where the turnaround would be. It would probably be right in the middle of the garage of the jetties, our neighbor. I'll let them come and talk for themselves later on. But this is not a good idea. We've had 5 or 6 new homes built. I believe they're all owned by Mr. Stellos or the family, and have endured about 2.5 years of construction, not yet complete. I have another neighbor who I will consult with very, very shortly about this effort. The property line that we now enclose with our fence is the property line established by Mr. Elliott, one of the philanthropists of Nashua and the owner of Nashua Beef Company many years ago, Larry Elliott. Those lines have not changed for our fencing, and there is substantial wildlife and other activity that thrives in that area. So that, among many other things, particularly noise, traffic, flooding, watershed, and property value. I haven't talked about that yet, but we bought our house. I'm a retired Air Force pilot. We bought our house about 35 years ago. We're residing on that, and it was our home to be enjoyed as basically a single-family lot. Our neighbors, the same thing. and again, they'll have to speak for themselves on that. We see our property value being reduced quite substantially by this effort.
Okay,
I think that's
Mr.
all I
Banner,
have to say right now.
I have a plot plan.
I'd like to see
that, and I'll comment that in terms of runoff, the owner would be required to not increase any runoff from their property. That's a city rule.
It's a heavily sloped tract of land right now, and Oldfield Road would have to be built up in order to be above the water. I'm not saying it floods. I'm not saying it floods.
I don't think there's any intention
very heavy.
of, are you talking about the paper street?
What?
Are you talking about the paper street? Building up the paper street, or just the existing stub that's
Both the
there?
street and the homes would have to be above it.
So what's happening is they're not touching the paper street. If you look at that plot plan right there, the paper street behind your property is not being developed. They're not touching it. They're not allowed to touch that.
Are you talking about the Oldfield extension?
Yes,
Okay, that's shown right in the back of my land.
I know, but they're not touching that.
How will they get there? How will they get these four homes?
So if you look at the plan,
Yep,
the current home that's there owned by Stellos,
yes,
the street ends in front of their home.
yes.
They're going to combine, the idea is to combine that lot with the lot in the back. The entrance to the property will be through the existing home. They're gonna remove that existing home is the plan, sir. So they're not going to add any more pavement than there is there now on the public street. They're going to access the public street at the end to enter
Okay, I see what
that
you mean by
property.
paper street. I didn't quite hear the
Yeah.
word paper street.
Yeah.
Yes, these would be directly in back of our house. Is that true?
The paper street will still be there. The width of that street is about what, Mr. Falk, 20 feet maybe?
Probably 20 feet.
20
to
feet?
25 feet.
So there'll be like a natural, call it a buffer, or call it a space between the back of your property and this development.
So a 10-foot setback from the paper street is being asked for.
It's considered rare of the home.
Yeah. And there's going to be no disturbance of the wetland and any of the trees that are there, so those will still be there.
So,
What is not shown, I think, is fencing on this.
So, sir,
Yep.
so just to let you know, right, so we're here to look at the approval of 4 homes on this property that's here.
Yes.
But if we were to approve this, it goes to the planning board. And they're the ones who are going to look at the layout, whether or not this is adequate for city services. They're going to look at everything. And those are the places where, if you have concerns about buffer or what you're looking at, that's where you would go.
I'm
This
looking
is
at
what-
both buffer and insulation,
Yeah, so this is.
sound and
So, yes.
noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we're just here to
Okay.
look at the development of this property, to do something with it, essentially.
I understand, and perhaps there are 2 parts going on tonight. The one that was canceled until the 25th. Is that part of it?
That's a different
Different
property.
property. They own a lot
Is
of
it
property in the
different?
city.
Okay, thank you very much. No offense, sir.
Yeah.
But my neighbors who are here and would also be talking in a similar objection that I have, have left because they were told the Stellos issue will not be discussed tonight.
I don't remember even mentioning Stellos.
It was at the very beginning of the meeting.
Well, the other case
Stellos
was
and
Stellos,
another-
they own another property, and I mentioned that.
I
that was
understand, but-
115 Northeastern
But that's
Boulevard.
why they're not here right now,
Oh, but
the
Probably
Jennies.
should have listened to the address. but-
They
did-
left
we did
because they
announce
thought
that
that this would
address.
not be brought up at all. I stayed around to ask one general question, which is how does the abutter, which we would be, receive notice of this change? The only reason we're here tonight is that there happens to be a variance sign in front of the Stellos house, not the people that are right there on the other side of the road. So that's my question. I don't think that
I
we've
can answer that.
received adequate notification. I'm speaking off the cuff right now.
If you're a property abutter, you would have gotten a certified letter in the mail.
No. And so the question on the plat is, are we considered a butter, both Emile
I don't
Vermette,
think
Dr.
so, because
Vermette,
they're separated by.
and Banners, because we have the Oldfield Road paper street?
Because that might be owned by somebody else. If that's owned by somebody else, then they wouldn't be in a butter. I'm not sure who owns that.
Is there fencing planned on the south side of the paper street?
We don't have that information.
Right, right. That's why we're concerned.
Yeah, these are, the issues that you raise, as has been said, would be better, should be raised at the planning board that will discuss all of these items.
All right. Well, I'll just reiterate that my neighbors aren't here to make similar objections because they believe that this was not to be discussed tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Banner? Yes, I see there. Yeah. Okay.
Linda Banner, 459 South Main. Just out of curiosity, do you, because I don't know, do you folks ever go check out these places that you're trying to?
Yes, absolutely we
Okay.
do.
Have you seen this particular spot?
Yes,
It is.
That's our routine.
Oh, okay. It's good to know. It's full of trees, turkeys, deer, fox. So those are other things that you might want to consider.
So ma'am, just make comment, yes, I think that's a little, I completely understand and hear what you're saying. I think through the years that most of us have been here, the hardest thing is for people who've lived next to lots that have been undeveloped for a long time, don't understand sometimes, and it can be unfortunate for some folks, and I can tell you that I can, understand your concern about it, but lots that are in the city that, let's say some of these trees, the landowner could go in and just clear cut the trees. So I just want you to know that. So, I think that it's difficult, right, when you live somewhere where you've had this nice view and you have the wildlife, but I think that can happen at any time. It could happen without, this landowner could have decided to come in and clear cut the trees without any notice or anything. So I just want you to understand that. That's not something that, that has to get approval or anything.
Okay. Sometimes there's spots of land that really shouldn't be developed because it makes no sense. Swamps, for one. You just don't develop them. And when you have a huge drop-off from Daniel Webster Highway into this murky mess, it just doesn't make any sense to me to build it.
Yeah, well, that could be a discussion to the planning board. That's not
Yeah.
something that we would take into account.
I don't quite understand why you give a variance if there are problems that are going to go to the planning board.
There are different parts of the ordinances, and it's the law. I mean, we're here to provide a safety valve from the ordinances, and in this particular case, it's the number of houses on a lot of record. And this happens sometimes when lots larger lots are being developed or being combined. There's nothing before us that would say whether or not a particular lot should be developed. And really, as Mr. Boucher said, we don't have control over that. If somebody owns the lot and they meet the ordinances otherwise, they can develop it. That's different from these, number of units thing. And sometimes we'll say, well, that's too many units for a particular size of lot, and other times we allow it. You heard this previous case, excuse me, where earlier the board had granted 5 units on a lot. And typically these small developments are done that way. And there's a lot of this going on in the city. And as Mr. Boucher said, sometimes people who you live there a long time, you like the view, but the landowner has found a way to develop it. And it's unfortunate, but that's what happens. And we're here. There's nothing we can do about that. You can raise objections at the planning board meeting, because they will need to get planning board approval for this.
How will we be notified about that planning board meeting?
Well, that's, I don't know the answer to that.
There, I don't think you're in a butter. I'm not sure who owns the Oldfield Road, Paper Street. If that's owned by someone that's not the city, you would not be in a butter. Otherwise, you can keep in contact with our office or look at the city's website, and that shows all the cases coming before all of our boards. That's really about it.
Yeah.
This is Paper Street.
Mhm.
Where is this really here?
I'm not sure who owns that.
Yeah,
Is this for yours, Vicki?
Yes.
Thank you for your information.
okay. Okay, and Mr. Flores, I assume there's nobody else to talk about this one. Mr. Flores, if you wish to come back up and for 5 minutes and talk about the things that you've heard.
Thank you for your comments. Right now, we're getting the approval, hopefully, to allow those structures. We then have to design them, and just as the board says, we will have to go to the planning board and demonstrate that this works and meets all the regulations and ordinances for stormwater and everything else. So, thank you.
Okay. And Mr. or Mrs. Banner, you are allowed to come back and make a comment regarding what Mr. Flores said, but you don't have to.
I'll have to look at my own property plat. I believe that Oldfield Road Extension is a direct extension of the Oldfield Road, whereas here it shows it shifted up the width of that road against our property line. So I also am assuming that this plan proposes destruction or heavy remodeling of the existing Stellus property, because that is on Oldfield Road. And I do see a potential that the Paper Street is about an inch too high on the plat. If you take a look at that.
You can bring that up to the planning board.
We will do that.
Okay.
Thank you. And plus, just to add further comment about the watershed, squeezing what is now almost double the size into 1/2 of the current watershed is going to cause problems.
All right, thank you.
You've gotten rid of half the watershed.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher, your comments.
I support the proposed development of the property. I'm a little indifferent to not indifferent, but the number of structures. I'm fine with that. I think that, again, I'm fully confident that in the planning board stage, everything would be feathered out. Now, it's a unique piece of property. I mean, what the abutter said is completely right. I mean, I drive by there often enough, and when I originally looked at that, I'm saying, if it's possible, right? And it's engineering, right? And we know that they just can't build on wetlands. There's going to be, there's very specific. So this has all been, they didn't waste their time and just guess where things are. So I know that I'm confident with the plan we have in front of us is correct. So again, at the planning board stage, and again, planning board may not, through whatever their decision, we know that sometimes projects are not exactly the way we originally saw, but again, this is the proposed plan. So the only question I have, Mr. Falk, is just remind me again, if we approve this for 4 units, but the planning board says, hey, do they have to follow the 4 units, or can they say 3 units is all we're going to let happen on here in their purview? Is that possible?
Well, if this board approves 4 and they go to the planning board says we would prefer 3, they wouldn't have to come back here because it's a lesser request.
Okay. All right.
Unless there's something that they're doing that's
Yeah. Okay.
encroaching in a wetland buffer or anything, but.
Yeah, I didn't see any,
have to come
yeah.
back.
And again, I'm just looking at a plan, you know. Okay. So, in general, I'll support this application for the multiple units on the combined lots.
Thank you. Mr. Neely?
This reminds me of the development on Buck Meadow Road in that you're basically taking what nature is giving to you. You take a look at this, the wetlands are pretty significant. There is a pretty significant rise in elevation going back to Daniel Webster Highway. I think this is a creative use of this property. It was quite frankly a fun walk around to see and envision this based on what's there now with the Stellos property. This whole area is in transition. We certainly had Riviera here not too long ago to get rid of one of the older buildings further down Oldfield. We've seen what Riviera has done to build up that area with more housing. So I do think this is a neighborhood in transition, bringing it from some older properties to some more modern, for lack of a better term. So I'm in favor of this, and for the same reasons as spoken by Mr. Boucher.
Thank you. Ms. Boras?
I'm also in favor of the application, again, as stated from my colleagues.
Thank you. And I'm also in favor of this. Is similar to other cases we've had. It looks like at least the current layout is a reasonable use of those properties, and I'm sure the planning board will have their say. Somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Neely, thank you.
Would like to make a motion to approve the variance for the James K. Stellos Revocable Trust owner, Daniel M. Flores, P.E., SFC Engineering Partnership Incorporated applicant, 2 and letter L, Oldfield Road, Sheet A, lots 270 and 322, requesting a variance from Land Use Code Section 190-17, subsection B, to exceed maximum number of principal structures allowed per lot, 1 permitted, 4 single-family detached units proposed. This is in the RA zone, Ward 7. The variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property given the special conditions of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. As discussed by the board, there is significant wetlands in that area, so it does call for some condensed building practices to avoid the wetlands. In addition, the location of the paper street makes this a very interesting property in that the paper street is projected to stay there and that they have to build a secondary entrance and egress from that area. We do find this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. This will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. We do not have any testimony from any realtors one way or the other on the property values, but there was some concerns from folks in the audience about the property value. This is not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would be served. So for those reasons, I make a motion to approve the variance.
And Ms. Boras, thank you for your second. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's 4-0. Variance has been approved. Congratulations. And again, there's that 30-day window of appeal, and your next step is the planning board. Moving on, case number 7. Owner is Nolene Ann and Clifford Picon, address 17 Sagamore Road, Sheet C, Lot 863, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-94, Section G, to exceed maximum driveway width, 19 feet existing, 24 feet permitted. The request is to allow curb cut to remain as is and construct driveway partially located within the 20-foot required front yard setback to traverse around the side of the house to connect to proposed new attached 3-car garage, thereby exceeding maximum 24-foot driveway width within the front yard setback. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 5. Good evening. Please give your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us. My name is Cliff Piccone, and this is my wife, Nolene, and we're the property owners of 17 Sagamore here in Nashua. And we're presenting a unique case. We understand that what we're asking for is a encroachment into the 20-foot setback. The reason why we're requesting that is because we have a corner lot. We come here with 100% support from our abutting and opposing neighbors. So anybody that faces our property, has visibility to our property, or physically touches our property, have signed approval statements, and we've put together a package for everybody, and we have 100% support from our neighbors. The reason why we're requesting the 20-foot setback variance is specifically because we have a corner lot. The section that we're looking to add onto our indigenous driveway utilizing goes into the 20 feet setback of a front yard property. Because we're on a corner lot, our side street, in essence our side yard, equals a second front yard. And if we did not have an intersecting street there, us being a corner lot, we wouldn't even need to apply for this variance to have that driveway put in. What we're requesting is to maintain the landscaping that we have in place, the approximately 40 trees that have been planted, and to maintain the existing curb on the side street. We're looking to add a driveway that goes inside the setback and stays inside the tree line, preserving curb appeal, preserving the appearance of the property to all neighbors and for all family and guests as they come. So we put together a presentation, and some of the key points that I'd like to point out, as I mentioned, is that we're preserving the mature trees and bushes that have been put in. They're roughly 6 years old at this point. They're mature, they're stable, and we don't want to disrupt that part of the nature landscaping that we've put in, and that maintains the appearance of the property from all of the curbs that we have. It maintains consistency of the front driveway ingress from the neighborhood. We're looking to keep the existing driveway unchanged. That unchanged portion of the driveway just got repaved, I believe, 2 weeks ago. They repaved Sagamore Road completely. So we have a new driveway that we paid our own money to put in, and that is now blended with new pavement on Sagamore that the city paved, and it is a seamless transition and will remain unchanged. What we're trying to do is stay within the 8 feet distance away from the existing opening of the driveway and have additional driveway added onto the side of that and curl around the property inside the tree line. As I mentioned, we're looking to avoid cutting the curb, which keeps costs reduced. It keeps the way the city maintains the roads for plowing and traffic to remain unchanged. We're proposing extension of our home to remain concealed by the maturity of the trees and the bushes that are already in place. It forms a natural fence line on the edge of the property, so to speak. And by us cutting that curb, adding an additional driveway on the other side, encroaching into the maximum 24-foot driveway width, we feel that would be a detriment. And we're trying to preserve the existing, we're trying to preserve the driveway the way it is currently made and not make any changes and just modify onto that. The last point that I'd like to make is we have some handicap members in the family, which includes special needs children. And by us having this driveway stay inside the tree line, it would facilitate ease of entrance into the house from cars as parked in front of the new garage, which is proposed. They'll be able to walk in the driveway instead of on the street, through an intersection and on the other street to come into the driveway opening. And this driveway being inside the property line will allow wheelchair, walker access, and special needs children the ability to walk inside the property line instead of outside the property line. We took pictures of the tree lines. We have letters signed by all of our neighbors. And if need be, I'd like to turn the microphone over to my wife so that she can walk you through
Yes.
the presentation as it's designed.
It's my turn. If you could refer to your packages on page 6 of the images of the property. As he mentioned earlier, Cliff mentioned, on Sagamore Road, we were just recently paved by the city 2 weeks ago. And last year, we invested in our current driveway, had it resealed, and again, smooth transition and connection. The city actually ended up cutting most of our neighbors' entrance of their driveways because they were all so badly beaten up and weathered. Ours was the only one. It was a clear straight line and now a seamless transition, so it looks fantastic. On page 6, you can also see the area of the yard that we are looking to expand the driveway into in the top right corner, and the bottom photo as well. That's the space where we're looking to add the driveway to the new development on the property, the expansion that we're doing to the home. Page 7, again, is a more clear view of the side yard, as well as the tree line that we are very adamant of keeping the integrity of these newly planted trees. And they are still maturing. The expected size is about 20 feet for the pines. They are about roughly 10 feet currently. On page 8, this is the viewpoint of Shawnee and Sagamore intersection. Again, the tree line, and as well the reverse image on the bottom of the page showing the other end of the yard. And again, after the photos are the following 8 pages from our neighbors, all signing their sworn acknowledgement. They have seen our property plans, and they fully support our intentions. And we asked them to come tonight, but then we had them sign. And we also have 2 neighbors that are having babies within about a week, and another one is babysitting for us right now so that we could be here tonight. So that's everything we have to present. If you have any questions, please shoot our way.
Questions from the board? I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I was, when I got your application, and I noticed that you talked about mirrors the design as seen at 3 Airlie Avenue. I said,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm looking at a map of the area. Well, let me zoom out a bit and let me find Airlie Avenue. It must be in the area, but it's not. It's several miles away on the Massachusetts border. And
No, it's not in Massachusetts. It is
I
actually
say it's on the
Nashua.
border, but it's right on the border of Massachusetts, and it's a very different design. So it didn't, I mean, yes, it had a 3-car garage, but it was a much larger lot and a very different driveway design.
So the reason why we chose to include that is, from our perspective, that represents what we're trying to do. A driveway that enters the property has a perpendicular section for usability and approaches towards a 3-car garage. But we understand that what we're requesting to do is in a corner lot as opposed to a lot with only one front-facing side. So because we have the additional side-front 20-foot setback, we understand that we have to encroach into that 20-foot space, and we're asking for permission to vary.
The house he's referring to is the one that immediately follows Second Nature Academy, and it's the corner of Groton and
I see.
Ariel. It's a new road from
Yeah.
one of the new developments. I can't even pronounce the name.
It's part of a new development. And the other thing is, when I drove by there, and I'm looking at I'm driving on Shawnee, and I'm looking at your house, I mean, yes, there are trees there, but they don't hide the view of the house or the property at all, at least in my estimation. I mean, I could clearly see your house, I could see your backyard and on your deck.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit puzzled as to, because what it sounds to me like you're trying to do is almost like pave your side yard there. And if it were me, I would have said, well, maybe we'll have to take out one of those trees and we'll just move the curb cut. It sounds like a kind of a kludgy way of accessing this garage.
Understood. The only other option was to eliminate the front yard
the current driveway, which is right now approximately 16 feet.
Yeah.
So we could take an option of one tree and add 8 feet to go into a 3-car garage, but then I would still need a variance to pave out to access the new garage. The other option was to eliminate the front driveway completely and then do my 24-foot curb cut on the Shawnee side, but I can still only pave up to 2 garage bays. So the plan of keeping the seamless transition of the current driveway to the new garage was the solution in not having to remove any trees that are young and still growing and still spreading. The magnolias take a long time, not as much as the pine goes a little faster. Then also to allowing access to the front door. Because now if I have to have a driveway on the side of Shawnee, I have no way of being on pavement and having anybody park to be able to access the front door. They would have to walk on the yard, and a walker and grass do not work. And his mother is legally blind, and my mother is very soon to be wheelchair bound. So that was our concern with, we need to have a driveway near the front door to minimize the amount of steps for a handicapped family. And our nephew is special needs, so we want to have his brother with his handicap accessible van park in the front of our house.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, you may have a seat. And since I don't see anybody else in the audience, I won't be asking for people in the audience with comments. I do see that you have many letters of support from your neighbors. Do I need to read it?
No, you could just say per the submitted
Yeah.
package from the owner, there are 8 letters of support.
Yep.
Leave it at that. We have it
Okay.
in the record.
All right, so we have 8 letters of support from your neighbors. They're part of the record. And I guess that will be it. So I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Neely, your comments.
So thank you for the updated packet. Having done a drive-by and read the original packet, I was probably leaning towards no. However, the presentation was good tonight. I understand what they're trying to do. The 8 letters from the neighbors made a big difference to me. It's not often we see that many folks in support of something like this. And then the last piece of the testimony about the need to easily access the house due to special needs and folks who are either bordering on handicapped or there certainly resonates in my head. It's a lot of pavement. I'm certainly interested to hear what the rest of the board has to say, but as of now, I'm leaning towards a yes vote.
Thank you. Ms. Boris.
I also feel the same way, the testimony, again, with the handicap access and this great presentation. I'm more in support than not.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
So I took a look at this the first time, and then I went by a couple times again, and in my head I was going, there's a variant, there's a request for a variance here, no matter what, okay, whether or not we would approve it, and of course my first thought was this should just be a second driveway off the side street. Again, testimony tonight brings out a little bit more of what the needs are. So I was just looking at the amount of pavement, and I guess this is where, when you look at something, this is why there's individuals here, because we all look at it differently, we all have our different views on it, our different taste, and then we think about this request in how we interpret it. So putting the extra driveway on the other side, does it reduce the amount of pavement that is being requested? I haven't done the calculation, but I think it's pretty close. I think it's a wash. Is it something that I would do? Maybe, maybe not. Would I try to accommodate some other way to get to the front door? Would a walk? I don't know. But again, I'm not this applicant. But what really kind of is there is all these letters of support. There's not one person or not one letter or one email in opposition to it. So with that, I have to say to myself, this may not be aesthetically maybe what I would choose, but I can see the benefits from having a second curb cut to not having a second curb cut. So this is truly, I'm indifferent to this. I know that no matter what, I believe that it would be reasonable, it's reasonable for the applicant to ask for a variance in one form or another. So I guess I'll listen to what else is to be said by Mr. Lino.
Thank you. As you might gather from some of my questions, my initial leaning on this was to say no. It's an awful lot of pavement, and I didn't understand why a curb cut on Shawnee would be out of line. Yes, you would need a variance to widen the driveway to allow access to the third garage bay, and I'll note that that's an issue here, but I didn't see any other 3-bay garages in your neighborhood, mostly 1s and 2s. It just feels weird to me to pave so much of that yard, and it will be visible from the street. But you do have all these letters of support from your neighbors, and as has been said, that does mean a lot. Yes, you would need a variance, but I think aesthetically, to me, I would have preferred to see it done the other way. But this is what you've chosen, and I'm really on the fence about this. I really am, because I just did not like the plan. Your neighbors seem to be okay with it. All right. So I'm going to continue thinking about this. Any other comments?
So I'm going to support it strictly based on the overwhelming fact that there's not just one or two in support, that there are several in support. So I think, again, like you said, Mr. Lionel, it's not something that you probably would have chose, or I would have chose aesthetically. But I guess I don't see enough reason at this point for me to say a denial. It's not my favorite plan that I've ever seen, but again, this is what the applicant's asking for, and there's this overwhelming, I call it overwhelming because it's pretty much almost everybody in that area supporting this. So they must be great neighbors, right? And there must be something else that people just love about the neighborhood, because, if you felt that something was not going to make your neighborhood go down or not feel like it's got value anymore, somebody would have spoke up. So I'm going to take that as very credible.
We have the medical necessity, right? Wheelchair, walker.
Well, that could be handled other ways. I mean, so I'll just comment that one of the criteria to be met is that, cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible to pursue other than the variance. So it's up to the board members to decide how they want to deal with that. So, somebody care to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, Mr. Neely, thank you.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for Nolene Ann and Clifford Piccone, owners 17 Sagamore Road, Sheet C, Lot 863, requesting a variance from Land Use Code, Section 190-94, subsection G, to exceed maximum driveway width 19 feet existing, 24 permitted. Request to allow curb cut to remain as is and construct driveway partially located within the 20-foot required front yard setback to traverse around side of house to connect to proposed new attached three-car garage, thereby exceeding maximum 24-foot driveway width within the front yard setback. This is within the R9 zone, Ward 5. The variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board did have discussion that to site the garage behind the house would probably require, if we did not have this variance, would require another curb cut. This is a three-car garage, a little bit bigger than the neighborhood, but realistically, they would have the full, or would be asking for the full 24-foot cut in the back. We did have discussion about whether the trees are going to block this. There was discussion about safety factor for some family members that need easy access to the house and won't have it without this driveway that wraps around. We do feel this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. This will not adversely affect the property values of the surrounding parcels, not contrary to public interest. In fact, we have 8 letters from folks in the neighborhood in favor of this. Basically, the neighborhood has spoken that they're fully in favor of this, and substantial justice would be served. So for those reasons, I make a motion to approve the variance.
And thank you, Mr. Boucher, for your second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? And opposed? Me? But 3-1, your variance has been granted. Please be aware, as I've been saying all night, that there's a 30-day window of appeal, but you should feel free to proceed with your plans. Congratulations. Okay, so we are not doing case number 8, but nobody here cares about that at this point. We have minutes from the the May 14th meeting. I did have a comment which I sent to Mr. Falk that.
Karina took care of that one already, I think.
Hmm?
That one email that you sent.
Yes.
I think Karina took care of that already.
Yeah, okay. In that, I was not listed as present in the initial roll call, but I was listed elsewhere, so.
So maybe you were kind of.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments on the minutes?
No other comments?
No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Neely, thank you for your motion. I'll second it. All those in favor of approving the motion, the minutes? It's 4-0. Okay. We have an agenda for the next meeting, which is June 11th, that I am not going to be here for. Let's see, no, that's not the right one. Where did I put it? Okay, well, I have it, but okay. So does anybody see any regional impact?
No.
No, okay. So,
Last page, wow.
hmm?
There's the 3 cases and the rehearing request.
Oh, there is a rehearing request. Oh, what is it for? That, Archery Lane. Wait a minute, they can have a rehearing request for the appeal of administrative decision? Yeah, okay.
So can there be any, is there any testimony, or is it?
No testimony on either side. It's only the board's consideration of what they've submitted. That's it. No one can get up and speak. They can come and sit and watch, but they can't speak.
Throw tomatoes and things like that.
Tomatoes,
Yeah.
water fruit, yeah.
Okay. So does anybody see any regional impact? I see, all right, nobody sees any regional impact. Okay. So it is 8:13. Adjourn the meeting. We are adjourned at 8:13.